In the aftermath of the Oregon massacre, President Obama is talking about why we need more gun control laws. Well, when one looks at the issue, we don't really need more gun control laws. We had gun control laws on the books when Adam Lanza participated in the massacre in Sandy Hook. We had gun control laws in place when Elliot Rodger went out on his shooting rampage in California. We had gun control laws when James Holmes shot up the Aurora Theater in Colorado. We had gun control laws when Dylan Roof did the mass murder down in South Carolina. We also had gun control laws in the case of here with Chris Harper Mercer when he went on his shooting rampage. And all of these people passed background checks and they purchased their guns legally. So, how are more gun control laws going to stop mass shootings? What we really have to look at in the bigger picture is how we are raising males. Because the reason why this trend of mass shootings is transpiring has nothing to do with guns and how we are raising males. Over the last 50 years, we have gone from a patriarchal family order to a more matriarchal family order. And the reason why this is important is because it has a direct impact on how males are raised. And when males are raised within a too close relationship with their mother, they often wind up not being able to understand how to navigate life in the world. And in many of these cases regarding these mass shootings, we're seeing a lot of males who are coming out of homes where they either were in divorce and then wound up becoming really close or dependent on care for their mother, or they just grew up, in homes where they had, again, a too close relationship with their mother. And because their mothers try to do everything for them and try to give them everything that they want in the efforts to accommodate them, these boys never learned to learn the discipline and the character that they needed to navigate life and all the obstacles in that they face in it. And this is the problem that I'm seeing coming out of all these mass shootings. The reason why they're increasing is because we're seeing more and more boys, growing up the wrong way. They're growing up in predominantly female environments. Females are catering to them. Females are caring for them. And they care a little too much because they give them everything they want. And they don't make them go out and build the discipline and character that they're going to need, again, to go out into the world. And when they start running into obstacles such as male authority figures and male leaders, these males start to become aggressive because they feel that, who is this man to challenge me? And this is one of the main reasons why where we're seeing so many shootings, because a lot of these guys, they cannot handle being in the real world. Now, your Chris Harper Mercer is an example of this. What happened with Chris Harper Mercer is that once his father divorced his mother began overly protecting him, overly caring for him, and she went as far as even asking the landlord to hire an exterminator to kill all the roaches because they annoyed her son. And then she went out and, there's noise on the street, there are children playing. She asked them to stop because they were annoying her son. And her son then gained a sense of entitlement that led to him becoming more dysfunctional. And this is compounded by his own, series of, disabilities. And all that came together to create a cauldron of dysfunction. This boy never learned the life skills that were needed to navigate life in the world. And the real world of a place like a college, it's a different world out there. The college environment, you're going to run into people with different views, different opinions, different ideas. And this boy, growing up since he was about 16 years old, had learned that it was that, everybody has to cater to me and everything has to revolve around me. And this is something that a lot of males growing up are learning, especially when they grow up with a too close attachment to their mother, because the mother tries to give the boy everything and the mother tries to appease the boy. And what happens is the boy learns that he starts to think that the world has to revolve around him and everybody has to do what he wants to do. And in the real world, a place like a college or a job or even just going to the store, you're going to run into authority figures, and especially male authority figures, and when boys like this who grow up in this dysfunctional way go out into the world and they have to deal with male authority figures, they start to fall apart because they're not used to following the lead of a male. They're not used to being told what to do. They're used to the world revolving around them. They're used to doing whatever they want. They're not used to having to follow instructions and, do what someone else tells them to do. And this is the big problem with a lot of these males. And I've read, your Elliot Rodger manifesto. I've read your Sung Hee Cho manifesto. I've taken a look at many of these documents, even your Vester Flanagan. They all follow this same pattern, and they all show me that the problem again is not guns. The problem is how we are raising males in today's society. Over the last 50 years, we have grown from, men learning a model of manhood from their fathers to men learning a model of manhood from their mothers. And because these boys are learning manhood from their mothers, they are not learning the life skills that they're going to need to navigate life. They are not learning how to deal with their feelings in a constructive manner. Because when you have a male who is sitting there and he's thinking about, violence as a solution, that shows me that he has no, people skills, no critical thinking skills, and no problem solving skills. And I see this quite a bit in my studies about men's issues because I write about men's issues and I write about men's health. And on my blog, www.shawnxjames.blogspot.com. And I write about these issues and I've done research on them and I see where this pattern is coming from. I see how the trend is increasing due to this increase in homes where the boys have too much of an emotional attachment to their mothers. And some cases they have, a too much of an emotional connection to women and women authority figures because this is what happens. The boy goes from his mother to a female caretaker to a female teacher, and the culture that is taught to this boy is that only authority figures he sees are all women. So when he starts to enter environments such as the workplace or college where there are more male authority figures, these guys again start to fall apart. When they enter the real world where people are not catering to them or trying to hold their hands, they really start to lose it. And I'm seeing, when it comes down to these guys, this is what they're learning. This is the way that they're socialized, and the way we are socializing boys is detrimental to their mental health. Boys have to learn early on that you don't get your way. They have to learn what the word no means, and everything in life, you don't get what you want. And in some cases, if you want something, you're going to have to work for it. But in today's world, with mommy and daddy, especially mommy, giving the boy everything he wants, he never learns how to build discipline. He never learns how to build character. And he never learns how to deal with things that everybody in life has to deal with, such as failure and loss. And I'm seeing that these school shootings and other mass murders really come, again, from the way these males have been raised. And the way, when you raise a boy the wrong way, he becomes a dysfunctional man. And dysfunctional men, again, they have no critical thinking skills, they have no problem solving skills, they have no reasoning skills. So this is why you can see two men going after each other on a place like social media, having arguments going back and forth with each other. This is why you can see males trying to stalk other males online just for having a different opinion. This is why you can see, males thinking about going out to go fight another male who is flying on a plane and then going 5,000 miles away to go fight another male based on an opinion. These issues with men, again, have to do with the way we are raising males. And the whole concept of this came about, again, 50 years ago, when the fathers started leaving the homes to go to work in corporate America on a more regular basis. And then later on, when the feminist movement came, a lot of men were shamed into, denying their own masculinity and their own male identity by feminists. And that led to the rise of this whole soft male culture. And soft males, where the whole idea was they were going to be kinder, gentler, and more sensitive. But as we see today, the fruits of creating that kinder, gentler male was now we have a whole 2 generations of Dr. Jekylls and Mr. Hydes. And on the surface, these boys are kind, they're caring, they're sensitive, and they treat a lot of women like their mothers fairly well. But on the inside, a lot of these guys are boiling in anger and boiling in rage. And the reason why they're boiling in anger and boiling in rage is because they have never been taught how to deal with their feelings or how to deal with their emotions or even how to navigate through their emotions. And navigating a person's emotions means, yes, you have a feeling about this and you are entitled to have that feeling, but you don't act on those emotions. You don't act on those ideas. In fact, you try to leave you try to avoid even thinking about those type of things. Yes, you have those feelings, but you don't even think about you know harming another human being. And this is the big problem with a lot of these males, because they act on impulse and they you know think about these, and they don't think regarding these feelings that they have. They don't think about the feelings that they have. They go out here and start planning things like mass murders and mass shootings, not ever thinking about the consequences of their actions, or how the consequences of their actions are going to impact people like their family or society as a whole. Because this male has never been taught to think about anyone outside of himself. He can't think about the needs of others or how his behavior affects others. And this is something that a lot of boys just, again, are not learning, because, again, they grow up with a too close attachment to their mothers. And in a lot of cases, some of these mothers are narcissistic and selfish. So they're not thinking about teaching this boy how to deal with his emotions and his emotional needs. But then again, a woman can't teach a boy about his emotions and his emotional needs, because the only way for a boy to learn manhood is, again, from another man. And in a lot of homes, or especially the homes of some of these mass shooters, like your Elliot Rogers and your Chris Harper Mercers, we're seeing that there was no man there for critical periods in the child's life to help this boy learn how to deal with life. I mean, this boy, Chris Harper Mercer, went to this college and he probably wound up not being able to do the work. And then he ran into, as I've seen it in many cases from my research, they run into male authority figures on the campus, and these guys start making demands of a person. Because when I was in college, that's what they would do. Your term paper would have to be in on a certain date. You'd have to be there for a certain test. You'd have to do things on the terms of the college, not on your terms. And when they face authority like that and leadership like that, they fall apart. And this is where these guys have, as I see it, what some people would call it a meltdown, but they have grown adult temper tantrums. And this is what we're seeing in these mass shootings. We're seeing grown men, having the equivalent of adult temper tantrums. They can't solve the problems that are presented to them. So as they boil in frustration and that frustration turns to rage, what they do is they go out and get a gun and plan to murder people, and in some cases kill themselves. And they believe that it will be the solution to the problem. And the whole thing is that if we just taught some of these males proper problem solving skills, maybe a lot of them wouldn't think about picking up a gun in the first place. But no one is thinking about how we are raising males, and how when women try to raise boys to become men, that everything just falls apart, and these boys wind up becoming extremely dysfunctional, and they resort to violence as a way of solving problems, instead of trying to sit down with people and work towards a more constructive solution. When I look at the issue regarding all of these mass shootings, the whole 45 in 1 year, I look at it from a broader perspective and a bigger picture. And that bigger picture is telling me that the way we are raising males in American society is the main reason why we're having all these mass shootings, not gun control. We don't need gun control laws. The United States has the most gun control laws on the planet, yet the number of mass shootings have escalated over the last couple of years. And the reason why these shootings continue to escalate is because we have two generations of males who were raised in many cases without fathers, or raised in homes where there was divorce, or they were just raised in dysfunctional home environments where they gained too close attachments to their mother and too close connections to women. And because they do not have any idea on how to navigate the world as men, they wind up becoming frustrated, they wind up becoming enraged, and they wind up trying to solve their problems with violence instead of constructive communication. And because these men do this, they do not that the society suffers through all these mass shootings. And we have to really look at, how we are raising boys, and, how our over focus on, girls has had an effect on society. Now, we've had all these things talking about girl power and all this stuff, but when it comes down to men, we're not teaching boys, that that there's anything right about being a man, and enjoying their masculinity and being comfortable in their masculinity and finding ways to solve problems as men. Instead, we expect boys to be these soft males. And when it comes down to your soft male, again, he is a Dr. Jekyll who is eventually going to turn into a Mr. Hyde and go on a rampage.